Peace. Happy 2021. You know the vibes. You know the name of the channel. Boom Baptism. I'm back again with another vid. All right, so I was building, with my man, MC, hip hop artist, Mr. FP. And we were talking about like groups, whether it be a duo, a trio, a quartet, or what have you, that there's always that one person that you like the most or like the best, and they always have the best verse. You can't wait for their part to come on because it just moves you in such a huge way. All right, so, we were going through certain groups, and I thought about it after I got off the phone with him, and I wrote down a list of my own, different groups from like the 80s, 90s, and today. And I thought about who was the star player of that group. So I wrote a little list, and I'm going to share it with you right now. So let's take it to number one, Run DMC. Now, Run DMC consists of Run, DMC, and Jam Master Jay, okay? The two MCs was Run and, of course, DMC. Now, for me, DMC just hands down, like all his verses were just solid. And I like Run also, but there's something about DMC that hit a little different. So I'm going to say out of the Run DMC, out of the two MCs, DMC was the star player in my opinion. Number two, Houdini. Now, first and foremost, rest in power to Ecstasy. Now, Houdini consisted of Ecstasy, Jalil, and Grandmaster D. The two MCs, of course, was Ecstasy and Jalil. For me, I'm gonna go with Jalil. I always liked his verses. It was just something about Jalil and and how he did his thing on the mic. Ecstasy was nice too, but Jalil to me was the star player of Houdini. Three, the Fat Boys. Now, the Fat Boys consisted of Prince Marky D, Cool Rock Ski, and the human beatbox, Buffy, aka DJ Doc Nice. Now, out of the two MCs, Prince Marky D or Cool Rock Ski, I'm going with Cool Rock Ski. Now, if you remember the movie Fat Boys, Cool Rock Ski was the one they had to convince to get in the group, and they were like, yo, Cool Rock, yo, we need you, we can't do it without you. And like I said, he was the star player to me. I always liked his verses or whatever. He was a little harder than Marky D, but Marky D did his thing too. Shout out to Marky D, Prince Marky D at that. Next up, number four, EPMD, Eric and Parrish Making Dollars. Out of the two, I'm going to give it to Eric Sermon. Now, I will say this, though. I think Parrish Smith was a better lyricist as far as writing was concerned, but it was something about Eric Sermon. He had a lot more personality, a lot more charisma. Then he had that lisp, that voice that really made him stand out. And truth be told, Eric Sermon can do a show by himself, just as Eric Sermon, where Parrish Smith, to me, has to be with EPMD to actually have a hitting effect. I don't really know too many of Parrish's hit records solo. That's no disrespect to Parrish, but, just together as EPMD, he shines really bright. Next up, number five, Mobb Deep. Of course, rest in power, we're going to give it to Prodigy. Shout out to Havoc. Havoc had the ill beats, and he did his thing lyrically as well, but, Prodigy was the star player. Number six, Salt and Pepper, okay? Now, for me, it was Pepper, because Pepper was kind of real sassy on the mic. She added that spice to Salt to the group or whatever. And I always liked Pepper, so for me, Pepper was the star player of Salt and Pepper, which consisted of Salt, Pepper, and of course, Spinderella. Number seven, Smith & Wesson. Now, for some people, they say it was tech. For me, it was steel. I always liked steel from Smith & Wesson, you know what I mean? And I liked his solo projects as well. So shout out to Smith & Wesson. Number eight, Black Moon. Black Moon consisted of Buckshot, 5FT, and Evil D. Now, of course, I'm going to give it to Buckshot. 5FT really didn't he did his thing, but you didn't hear a whole lot from 5FT, so it's really hard to say what he can and can't do, but the stuff I heard from him was nice. But, Buckshot, he was the lead MC, so we got to give it to Buckshot. Number nine, A Tribe Called Quest, consisting of Q-Tip, Fife, Ali Shaheed Muhammad, and Jerobi. So out of the two MCs, Fife and Q-Tip, I'm going to give it to Fife, especially when he came out swinging on Low End Theory. He was kind of quiet on the first album, But Low End Theory and Midnight Marauders, yo, he just really took the show. He was like Q-Tip's secret weapon and just, you know what I mean? He just hit a lot different. Number 10, Jungle Brothers. Oh, I'm sorry. Number 10 is De La Soul. Excuse me. That's number 10. Consisting of True Way the Dove, a.k.a. Dave, Puff the Noose, and Maceo. Now, out of the two MCs, Dave and Puff the Noose, I'm going to go with Puff the Noose. Puff the Noose is more cerebral with it, a little bit more complex with it. You know, I always like how he was very witty and just clever with his verses. So the star player in De La Soul to me was Puff the Noose. Always loved his verses. Number 11, the Jungle Brothers, consisted of Mike G, Africa, and DJ Sammy B. For me, it was Africa. Africa just did it, you know what I mean? He held it down. They were both dope, but Africa was the star player, like I said, in my opinion. Number 12, Little Brother, consisted of Fonte, Big Pooh, and Ninth Wonder. I'm going to give it to Fonte. However, I loved Big Pooh's first solo album. I think that was really, 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 really dope. Because he had it all produced, I think, by Ninth Wonder or whatever, and a few other Justice League members. But that was a dope album. Shout out to Big Pooh. Number 13, here's where it gets tricky, all right? Now, number 13, right, The Lox. Now, in the beginning, everybody can agree it was Jadakiss, right? Jadakiss was hands down the man. But as time moved on, I have to give it to Styles P because he's matured a lot with his lyricism and just as a man behind the mic, he has a lot to say. He's not still stuck on stupidity, So I have to give it to Styles P. He's hands down holding down the Lox. And I like Sheik Luch too, but Styles P is the star player of the Lox, in my opinion. 14, Artifacts, consisted of Tame One and Elder Sensei. I'm gonna give it to Tame One. Tame One was just crazy witty with it. He had a lot of silliness on the mic, and maybe that's because him and Redman were cousins. They kind of probably used to rhyme together and bounce ideas back and forth. But Tame One was crazy nice. I always loved hearing his verses, his part when it was time for him to rhyme. 15, Ultramagnetic MCs, consisting of course, Kool Keith, Said G. Then you had the DJ TR and Mo Love. I think Mo Love was the DJ TR. I think he did some of the DJing as well. But out of the two main MCs, Said G and Kool Keith, of course, we got to give it to Kool Keith. Said G was just magnificent on the beats. And lyrically, he did all right. He did his thing. But like I said, Kool Keith definitely, today has been a big influence on a lot of MCs in New York. 16, Leaders of the New School, consisting of Charlie Brown, Busta Rhymes, and Dingo D, and of course the cut monitor DJ Milo. Now, out of those three MCs, I will say this. To me, Dingo D was the most lyrical out of all of them, but it was Busta Rhymes' presence, his charisma, his stage presence, everything about Busta Rhymes yelled superstar. So a lot of times you couldn't really wait to hear his parts because Busta Rhymes always had the rhyme last, he just always killed it. So shout out to Busta Rhymes and shout out to the whole Leaders of the New School. Strong Island was good. 17, UGK, Bun B and Pimp C. I have to give it to Pimp C because Pimp C was funny at that and he just didn't give a fuck. Pardon my language. 18, 8 Ball and MJG. Something about the Fat Mac 8 Ball was just a little stronger than me. MJG, he was cool, but something about 8 Ball that stood out a little bit better. 19, NWA. Now, we got NWA, and I'm going to take it from the beginning. So we have Eazy-E, Ice Cube, MC Ren, Dr. Dre, DJ Yella, Arabian Prince. Like I said, hands down, I'm going to have to give it to Ice Cube, even though MC Ren was hard as fuck. Once again, pardon my language, but MC Ren was hard. But like I said, Ice Cube just hit a little differently. Griselda, today, Griselda. So we have Westside Gun, Conway the Machine, Benny the Butcher, and Derringer. Out of those three MCs, I got to give it to Benny the Butcher. I know everybody likes Conway, but Benny the Butcher, to me, he shows vulnerability in his rhymes. And just the way he bounces his words, he's to me, a tad bit nicer than Conway the Machine. That's just my opinion. Some people, that's a debate that we can have back and forth all day with a lot of you guys. Number 21, OGC, Original Gun Clap, is from the Boot Camp Clique, consisting of Top Dog, Louisville Slugger, and String Wonder. I'm going to give it to String Wonder, even though I loved Louisville Slugger and his style or whatever, but it was String Wonder was the anchor. He held it down. I think he was the star player of that group. Like I said, just my opinion. Number 22, Capone and Noriega, consisting of Capone and Noriega, who is now known as N.O.R.E. I got to give it to Nori, and I'll say this, in my opinion, Capone was probably a better lyricist, can probably write better than Nori, but once again, that personality, that charisma, that attitude, I mean, it just overshadowed Capone, and I always liked Nori's verses. He just had that energy, 23, M.O.P., Little Fame, and Billy Dance. I'm going to go with Billy Dance. Billy Dance to me sounded like that drill sergeant that was just screaming on you. You know what I mean? I loved his parts. When he came in, it was like Little Fame did his thing and he's killing it. But Billy Dance was like something about Billy Dance. You know what I mean? Billy Dance was, he was the star player at M.O.P. in my opinion. 24, here's another tricky one, Helter Skelter. Now, it's safe to say that first Helter Skelter album, Nocturnal Rockness Monster, was the star player. He held it down to the fullest. However, as time went on, tables turned, Sean Price is the star player. Sean Price is the star player, Helter Skelter. 25, Dead Prez. M1 Stickman, I'm going to give it to Stickman. I love all his solo albums. We got to give it to Stickman. 26, Brand Newbie, and I hate to touch this one. I really do hate to touch this one because all of them are dope in their own right. But I got to give it to Grand Poobah. I love Sadat, love Lord Jamar, but I got to give it to Grand Poobah. Grand Poobah, yeah, Grand Poobah. And let's skip that one because that's just really hard for me. 27, Onyx, consistent of Fredro Starr, Sun Seas, Big DS, Rest in Power, and Sticky Fingers. Gotta give it to Sticky Fingers. His part always was the one we all waited for because he always took it home. Sticky Fingers was just way too ill. Shout out to all the Onyx, Fredro Starr, all of them, but Sticky Fingers was the star player of the group. There's just nothing more to say. 28, Das Effects. All right, Scoob, Books in Reverse, and Crazy Drazy. I got to give it to Scoob, Books in Reverse. I mean, his verses was just sick. He was crazy with it. I rock with him. I definitely rock with Scoob. I wish he would have dropped a solo album. I don't think he ever did, though, but that would have been dope. He was nice. He had that. He was from Brooklyn. He had that, he hit a little different. 29, Nice and Smooth. Greg Nice and Smooth B. I got to give it to Greg Nice. Greg Nice just set it off. Even though Smooth B, he calmed you down after Greg Nice set it off, but it was something about Greg Nice. Even though Smooth B to me was probably a better lyricist, but like I said, that attitude, that charisma with Greg Nice and just, it was just crazy. Lords of the Underground consisted of Mr. Funky, Do It All, and Lord Jazz, the DJ. I got to give it Do It All. I had just like Do It All. 31, UTFO. Consisted of Kango Kid, the educated rapper, Dr. Ice, and Mixmaster Ice, the DJ. I'm going to give it to Dr. Ice. I love Dr. Ice. Kango was nice too. Educated rapper was cool, but I love Dr. Ice. Dr. Ice was just smooth with it. And then he had the little 360 waves. He was smooth. Then he dropped a solo project. I think it was called Mike Stalker or whatever, but that was dope. That was dope. Stetson Sonic. Oh, man, there's so many members. Dementia, I know it was Fuquan, Daddy-O. It was a toss-up between Daddy-O and Fuquan, but I'm going to go with Fuquan. Treacherous 3, Kumo D. Dog Pound consisted of Corrupt and Daz. Lyrically, we got to give it to Corrupt. He was the star player. Daz had the beats, though, and Daz did his thing on the mic, too. But, yeah. 35, Slum Village. You already know I'm going with Jay Dilla. Then we have 36, Diggable Planets. Diggable Planets consisted of Ladybug, Mecca, Butterfly, and C Knowledge, the god C Knowledge. I'm going with Butterfly. Just about something about his voice and how he was smooth, like butter. All right. Ghetto Boys. I got to give it to Scarface. The group consisted of Scarface. It was a bunch of different changes, but the main three was Scarface, Willie D, and Bushwick Bill. Out of the three, Scarface was the star player. Bushwick Bill was dope too. You know, Willie D did his thing, but Scarface, you already know. You can't, there's no debate on that. All right. Goody Mob. Aha, Goody Mob, Goody Mob, Goody Mob. Goody Mob consisted of, if I remember, was Timo, Cujo, CeeLo. Am I missing somebody else? I think it was Cujo, Timo, Big Gip. Right, Big Gip. Right. So I'm gonna give it to CeeLo. CeeLo was a star player. I think he was the most lyrical. Plus he sung. He had a lot. He added the soul to the group. So shout out to CeeLo. Shout out to the whole Goody Mob. Third bass. Now in the beginning I would have said Search, but after I heard the solo album, I said But then when I heard Pete Nice solo album, and then I really started listening to Pete Nice, I'm gonna give it to Pete Nice. I know people can argue me, yo, Search was ill, Search, but Pete Nice was ill to me. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna give it to Pete Nice. The Fugees, of course, we're gonna give it to Lauren. The Alcoholics consisted of J-Ro, Tash, and DJ E Swift. You gotta give it to Tash. I think even Tash dropped a solo project. I always liked Tash. Tash had that New York kind of like to him. I gotta give it to Tash. Infamous Mob consisting of Big Twin, G.O.D. Part 3, and the other brother Ty Nitty. Now G.O.D. was the most lyrical. He can write. He was the best writer out of all of them. And Ty Nitty had an ill flow, but like I said, Big Twin, I think the voice took it for me with Big Twin. His voice was just crazy ill. Sound like he swallowed goddamn sand and shit, but it was crazy ill. You got to give it to the grimy one. I still rock with the grimy one even to this day. Listen to a lot of his solo projects, and he's not the most lyrical, but god damn it, when he spits, he hits. Simple as that. So anyway, that was my list right there of some of my favorite out of all these hip hop groups. I picked my favorite individual out of all those groups that I like, that for me were the star players of the group. Once again, the channel, the vibes. It's Boom Baptism. You might be watching this on YouTube. You might be watching this on Instagram. Either way, either follow me, like, comment, subscribe. And I'm going to say peace.